Hey, what's up guys, it's your boy Ovidius. As many of you already know, I wrote the entirety of Metamorphoses, which is pretty much the basis of Western canon these days. And you guys have been telling me for the past 2,000 years there's been some pretty intense appropriation of Icarus and Daedalus going on, so I thought I'd react to that today. Guys, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and smash the notification bell so you get notified when I drop Metamorphoses 2. Guys, trust me, it's going to be a banger. Alright, let's get into the video. Okay guys, so I thought I'd start this one off by explaining the key themes and ideas of Icarus and Daedalus. I think I'm pretty qualified to speak about this since I literally wrote it. So pretty much the main idea I was trying to convey with that text was the dangers of hubris. Specifically humanity trying to usurp nature via technology. Daedalus, who is Icarus' father, is basically trying to overcome nature when he makes the wings that allow him and his son to escape Crete, and Icarus falls due to his hubris when he ignores his father's cautions not to fly too high or too low. Even though Icarus' name is in the title, I actually wrote the poem mainly about Daedalus. There's some foreshadowing in there to make sure the readers know that Daedalus' ambition isn't going to end well, you know, just generating a bit of suspense. These days people refer to the poem as the fall of Icarus, so it kind of ruins the surprise and makes the foreshadowing useless. But oh well, like I literally wrote it 2,000 years ago, so I don't think a spoiler in the title is that much of an issue. Anyway, so I wrote, not knowing he was dealing with his own downfall, describing Icarus' excitement when putting on the wings for the first time. Pretty clever because he falls, you know. Also, when Icarus and Daedalus are about to fly away from Crete, I wrote, his cheeks were wet with tears and his hands trembled. He kissed his son goodbye as if he'd known it. Wet, because he falls into the ocean. Anyway guys, so the events of this poem are actually more about hubris, but also I wrote some specific lines in there, literally saying that Icarus needs to be careful. Like, I warn you Icarus, fly middle course. Daedalus specifically tells Icarus, don't go too low or the water will weigh you down, and don't go too high because the sun's fire will burn them. Okay, so like before I mentioned guys, one of the key themes of my poem is technology, which is obviously linked to Icarus' downfall. It's via this technology that Daedalus attempts to usurp nature, but the thing is, it's not really a moral failing of Daedalus that causes him to try and beat nature in this way. So basically, he's recently trapped King Minos in the labyrinth because he turned into a minotaur, but Minos shut Daedalus and Icarus in the maze too. Pasiphae, who is the daughter of the sun god Helios, let them out, but they were still stuck on the island of Crete, and they couldn't sail away because King Minos still controlled all the ships. They could have just stuck onto one, but you know, don't question it. So Daedalus pretty much only tried to beat nature because it was the only way he and his son could escape Crete. I'm really curious to see, guys, if the adaptions actually get this part right, or if they portray the characters trying to usurp nature just out of arrogance. Alright guys, that's pretty much the full explanation of what I was trying to do with Icarus and Daedalus. Let's jump right into this movie that's apparently appropriating some of the themes I mentioned earlier. This movie is called I Am Legend. It was based on a book written in the 1950s. The director is called Francis Lawrence. Yeah, never heard of him. Anyway guys, I'm going to watch this whole thing just to get a good idea of the story and themes, and then I'm going to include some scenes I think are important just to give you guys a good explanation of how it's similar to my text.
So you have actually cured cancer?
Yes.
Alright guys, so this opening scene already feels a bit like foreshadowing. Since apparently a central theme of this film is man trying to usurp nature, I'm going to assume that the cure for cancer is going to be someone's downfall. I'm not really sure why you're talking about curing crabs. I'm just going to assume that cancer doesn't mean crab anymore, or this is already really weird. Let me just check. Okay, so it's like a disease that kills a lot of people. You guys really ruined Latin, didn't you? Anyway, straight away guys, we can see that there's actually a pretty good motive for how they're trying to usurp nature here, since the disease kills a lot of people. So this one definitely checks out on that front. Alright guys, so I'm immediately noticing there's lots of grey in the city scenes with all the man-made objects. I don't know how you guys manage to make towers this big these days, and I don't see any aqueducts either, so I'm not really sure how you're supposed to get fresh water. Anyway guys, because the trees and the nature and stuff are so green and vibrant, I think what the director is trying to symbolise here is death in man-made objects in life and nature, or something like that. You know, I'm not really sure how you're supposed to analyse films, I've never seen one before, but yeah, that's what I think guys. Guys, right, I'm pretty sure the scene is trying to show the desolation of the city. There's absolutely no one around. I'm guessing that's because of the cancer cure virus thingy they were talking about before. You know, obviously didn't work as intended. So yeah, this is accurate. You know, they're immediately showing the effects that's happened because of man tampering with nature. Alright guys, there's someone off screen talking, but the character doesn't seem to be able to hear it. Maybe he's deaf or something.
We had 16 inches of snow, Matt. Back to you, Matt, Katie.
Okay, so apparently there's someone in a box talking. I'm gonna guess that's normal because the character seems kind of fine with it, you know? Okay, so apparently you guys figured out how to make chariots without horses. You know, that's really cool. I wish we had that in my day.
Please. You can do the same work outside the city.
Ground zero. This is my site. We talked about this.
Alright guys, so as you just heard, the main character just called this area his site. So I'm assuming he's going to be one of the people that tries to attempt to cure this virus. Right, so straight away I can already tell you that the technology theme is very prevalent in this movie. You know, like genetically engineering a virus is probably the most technologically advanced thing I can think of. So yeah, that definitely checks out.
4 and decreasing. We may have something here.
Alright guys, so here he's got a person, they've been infected with the virus, their humours are obviously way out of whack, maybe too much black bile or something. Anyway guys, we can see firsthand the effects that humans tampering with nature has had on them. You know, she's been reverted to a more sort of natural or bestial state, which you could definitely say is a poetic punishment for humans overreaching against nature. Okay guys, so we can see that his wife and kid just died. That isn't great, but it's actually really interesting, because just like in Daedalus and Icarus, the main character is actually left alone by himself again, due to the impacts of the technology. So yeah, that's really interesting.
What are you doing? I would think of all people you would recognize a wall when you see one. Well, yeah.
Okay guys, this is actually really interesting because they've taken the person out of the box and they put a donkey in there. What this might be saying is that, you know, the person has been replaced by an animal, you know, once again going back to that theme of humanity reverting to their natural state sort of as punishment.
This is ground zero. This is my site.
Okay guys, so this is the second time this character has said the exact same thing in this movie, and he said sort of something similar a few more times. So I think what this is indicating is this character is making finding a cure to the problem a core tenet of his personality, which is something similar to what Daedalus did in Daedalus and Icarus, trying to find a way off the island. So not exactly the same thing, but it's an interesting comparison.
My God.
God didn't do this, we did.
Okay, so firstly, if you said that in my day, you get crucified. Anyway guys, so if we take God to mean nature here, it's pretty obvious that the main character is saying that the events of the story are sort of the fault of humanity interfering with nature, rather than just like a natural event or something like that. Okay guys, once again the nature shots are very vibrant. Just going back to what I said before about how nature sort of represents life in this movie. Anyway guys, we can definitely see this movie is an appropriation of Daedalus and Icarus. The main complication is the result of humanity trying to usurp nature via technology out of desperation. Exactly the same as in my poem guys. There are actually some other story events that are similar, like the main character being left alone because of the technology, and the main character finding a cure sort of a core tenet of his personality. Anyway guys, on to the next one. Okay guys, so I've just got another artwork that you guys have been telling me is an appropriation of the original Icarus and Daedalus myth, so let's take a look at that. Alright, so here it is. Apparently this artwork is based on an older artwork that was made about 100 years ago called the Lament for Icarus. Obviously not hard to figure out what that one was based on. Let's take a look at it. Okay, here it is guys. We can see here Icarus has just fallen and he's surrounded by naked women. I'm not really sure what's with the Renaissance painters and naked women, they sort of seem to have a thing for each other. Anyway guys, let's go back to the adaptation. So this one's called the Lament for Icarus 2020. Once again, really struggling to figure out what it's based on. Anyway guys, so we have the background as a toxic wasteland, and this Icarus doesn't really seem to have wings or anything, but he does have one of those capsules that modern humans like to kind of spin around the earth in. So here Icarus is obviously fallen from the sky, which is a very strong allusion to the original myth. Still naked women around him for some reason, I'm not sure what's with that. Oh wait, okay guys, so these are meant to be nymphs. In ancient Greek folklore, nymphs are a sort of female nature deity, and so here they obviously represent nature. So what the artist is trying to say is that nature regrets what happened since the nymphs are mourning for Icarus, even though humanity broke sort of nature's order. Let's just see what the artist has to say about this painting. Okay, so obviously here in this timeline, humanity has sort of polluted Earth to the point where it's not really habitable anymore, which is obviously another example of humanity sort of destroying and subverting nature via technology for their own benefit. So this orange guy, Icarus, obviously represents humanity as a whole in this timeline, and as we can see, they've advanced very far technologically, but it doesn't really help them survive since they still rely on Earth to sustain their species, which they've destroyed via their own hubris, as I said before. So not only does this painting allude to an older painting about Icarus, but the story itself behind the artwork alludes to the original Daedalus and Icarus myth, which is a very cool double illusion, guys. Okay guys, so I've had a look at this artwork, and what's clear to me is that the colours used actually have a lot of symbolic meaning. So there's a lot of green in this painting, and green generally symbolises nature, but if we analyse closely, we can see that the main colours are green, orange and blue, which are a triadic colour combination. The artist has even ensured that one of the colours, being green, has a dominant role, whereas the other two have a supporting role. So this is really interesting, guys, because generally triadic colour combinations work to create vibrance, but because the artist has used two cool colours, which are green and blue, and one of them being dominant, the vibrance doesn't really clash with the solemn theme of the painting. So this is really well executed on that front. In regards to the technology theme, there's literally a spaceship functioning as the key point of interest in this artwork, and in order to pollute the Earth so heavily that it doesn't support life anymore, there's obviously going to be a lot of heavy industry going on. So yeah, obviously humanity trying to subvert nature is a key theme in this artwork, so this one definitely checks out as well, guys. So guys, I've been thinking about whether this one fits the motive theme like I Am Legend and Icarus and Daedalus did. It's kind of hard to tell, you know, like why did humanity end up polluting the Earth to the point of ecological collapse in this timeline? Was it due to something like overpopulation where they had no choice, or was it something like intense corporate greed and consumerism? It's not really clear to me, guys, but if I had to pick, I'd lean towards the first one. That's because the nymphs are still here. So the artist could have easily replaced the nymphs with something that better fit the theme, such as irradiated corpses or mutants, but it didn't. Guys, what this tells me is that nature still mourns for humanity in this version, so maybe humanity had no choice in this timeline. That's my hunch anyway. Leave a comment below about whether or not you agree with me. Guys, in conclusion, I've got to say all these stories are fairly similar. They're all centered around the fall of a character or entity due to hubris via the creation of technologies that upset the balance of power between humanity and nature. But in all of them, the people creating the technologies didn't really have much of a choice. Okay guys, so overall it's pretty obvious that both I Am Legend and the Lament for Icarus were both heavily inspired by Icarus and Daedalus, but you know what guys, I'm not that mad that they copied my poem. They're both really interesting takes on the original myth, and I think it's cool that people are still appropriating my original myth thousands of years later. Okay, that's all for today guys. Remember to smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Trust me, you don't want to miss out on Metamorphosis 2. Thanks for watching and have a good one.